Have you ever stopped to wonder what truly goes on in someone's mind when they choose to dismiss or reject someone who cared for them deeply? Let's be real. Your feelings were genuine. You showed up for them, offered your kindness, your loyalty, your love. And what did they do? They treated you like you were invisible, as if all your efforts were nothing more than noise in their world. Then one day, you changed your approach. You gave them what they thought they wanted: silence. You stepped back, stopped calling, stopped chasing. But here's the twist. They were ready for it. They expected it. They knew that after taking and taking, without giving anything in return, you'd eventually pull back. And in their mind, your silence. It wasn't a surprise. It was the move they were counting on. Now they sit there, smug, wearing that satisfied smirk. They believe your silence confirms their victory. To them, you're not unpredictable or strong. You're just doing exactly what they thought you'd do. How predictable, they tell themselves. They think their silence is going to shake me. How amusing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Maybe you did exactly what they expected. Maybe your silence isn't hitting them the way you hoped. Maybe they see it as proof of their control, evidence that they've already won. Imagine them sitting there in their false sense of triumph, believing they've reduced you to a memory. They think you're sitting in the dark, holding your breath, hoping they'll notice, hoping they'll miss you, hoping they'll realize your worth. They believe you're waiting for their validation, for their attention, for their regret. But oh, how wrong they are. Let me make something clear. Your silence isn't about them. It never was. And if it is, it's time to shift the focus. You see, silence isn't a weapon to make someone miss you. Silence is the space where you find yourself again. It's the arena where you reclaim your power, your dignity, and your sense of purpose. A Stoic doesn't beg for attention, nor do they crumble under rejection. A Stoic doesn't play predictable games, they rise above them. Your silence is a declaration, not a retreat. It says, I am not here to entertain your ego. It says, I choose me over your manipulation. It says, your games no longer have a place in my life. And while they sit there, thinking they've won, believing you're licking your wounds in silence, something much bigger is happening. You're growing, you're healing, you're building a version of yourself so solid, so unshakable, they won't even recognize you if they dare look back. Remember this, your silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the act of stepping out of a losing game and creating a new one where you set the rules. And while they laugh, thinking you've faded into irrelevance, they've missed the plot entirely. Because the truth is, the real power in silence isn't in making them miss you. It's in making them realize you don't need them at all. So say it with me. My silence is my strength. Write it down. Etch it into your mind. Because while they think they've won, you're just getting started. Now, here's the magic. Here's what they'll never see coming. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to flip their expectations on their head. You'll understand the steps to reclaim your power, your peace, and most importantly, your life. Watch till the end, because you'll want to carry this lesson with you forever. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon so you never miss another video that speaks directly to your soul. And let me ask you something. What does your silence mean to you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Write, my silence is my strength, and let the world know you're rising above the noise. Let's get into it. By the end of this, you'll see just how wrong they were to think they'd won. 1. Silence isn't surrender. It's the storm they never saw coming. They sit there, so sure of themselves, basking in their imagined victory. In their mind, your silence is a white flag, proof that you've been broken. "I knew this would happen," they tell themselves, their confidence growing as they picture you as a faded memory, a weak, irrelevant player in their self-made story, where they're the champion. But here's the truth: silence is never what it seems. It's not surrender. It's not a retreat. Silence is the quiet before the storm, the moment the wind changes before the tidal wave crashes. They expect the chaos they've grown so comfortable with: arguments, begging, long emotional texts explaining how much you've been hurt. That's where they thrive. They're masters of manipulation, feeding off the drama and the reactions they provoke. What they don't understand, what they can't understand, is that your silence is not about them at all. It's not a ploy, a cheap trick, or some manipulative strategy. It's not a way to bait them, to pull them back into your orbit, or to make them chase you. Your silence is a choice, your liberation from their games. It's a clean break from the toxic cycle they kept you trapped in. Imagine a chess game where one player is making move after calculated move, anticipating a response from their opponent. But what happens when their opponent steps away from the board entirely? They're left playing alone, moves meaningless without a rival. That's what your silence does. It's not just a move in their game, it's your way of walking away from it entirely. They believe you're staring at your phone, waiting for their apology, their regret, their desperate plea to return. They imagine you checking your notifications, hoping they've finally realized your worth. But here's the truth that will shatter their illusion. You're not even thinking about them. While they're caught up in their web of manipulative thoughts, you're cutting every string that ties you to their control. Silence to them has always been a weapon. They've used it to create guilt, confusion, and longing in others. They assume your silence is the same. But for you, silence isn't a weapon. It's peace. It's the quiet strength of someone who has stopped explaining, stopped arguing, and stopped needing closure. It's the sound of a door closing on the noise they brought into your life. And here's the irony. They've built their identity on the need for power, for control, for constant proof that they matter. But when you go silent, not as a tactic but as a declaration, they lose their power entirely. Without your reaction, without your energy, they're left facing the emptiness they've been avoiding all along. A storm doesn't announce itself. It just arrives, sweeping everything in its path. Your silence is that storm. It leaves them unsettled, second-guessing, wondering if they misjudged you. They'll analyze every moment, every move, trying to figure out what went wrong. And by the time they realize your silence wasn't about manipulation, but liberation, it'll be too late. They weren't playing the same game you were. While they were stuck in their cycle of petty control, you were moving on, building a life so solid, so fulfilling, that they won't even recognize the person you've become. Let them think they've won. Let them believe they're still in control, because the truth is, their games no longer matter. They're playing with shadows while you're walking into the light. Remember this: silence isn't defeat. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is your freedom, your strength, your power. Say it to yourself. My silence isn't surrender, it's my peace. And know deep down that while they think they've won, the reality is this: you've already left the game, and that's the greatest victory of all. 2. The cracks in their mask can't stay hidden forever. They move through life behind a carefully built mask, a flawless facade crafted from arrogance, deception, and hollow confidence. To the world, they seem untouchable, charming, confident, and always in control. They wear this mask like armor, fooling everyone into thinking they're invincible, but beneath that polished exterior lies a truth they don't want anyone to see. Behind the confident smile and calculated words is fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being exposed, fear of being forgotten. Their mask isn't a reflection of strength. It's a cover for their deepest insecurities, their emptiness, and their inability to face who they truly are. For a long time, their mask worked, didn't it? They fooled you. They made you believe they were everything they pretended to be: strong, worthy of your time, your love, your energy. They played the role of someone important in your life, all while treating you like you were disposable. But masks are fragile things, and lies have a way of catching up. Imagine this. Their mask is like glass, beautiful and reflective on the outside, but underneath, cracks are spreading. Every lie they told, every manipulative game they played, every time they ignored your feelings or dismissed your worth, another fracture appeared. And now, those cracks are too big to hide. You see, they wear the mask because the person behind it terrifies them. It's easier for them to pretend, to manipulate, to act indifferent, than to admit the truth. They are weak, insecure, and powerless without control over others. They use their arrogance as a shield, hoping no one will notice the fragile person hiding underneath. But here's what they never expected. You saw through it. You saw beyond the mask, beyond the charm, and into the emptiness they've been trying to cover up. The moment you recognized their manipulation, their games and their lies, the power dynamic shifted. They thought your silence or your decision to step away was weakness. But it wasn't. It was clarity. It was strength. It was the realization that their power over you only existed as long as you believed in their act. And now, that belief is gone. They've spent their lives running from their own reflection. Every manipulative move they make is an attempt to distract from the person they see in the mirror. But reality has a way of catching up. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process they do not become a monster. They've become exactly what they feared, someone hollow, defined by their need for control and validation from others. But you don't need a mask. You've faced your pain, your heartbreak, your struggles, and instead of hiding behind a facade, you embraced the truth. You tore off any illusions and rebuilt yourself into someone stronger, someone authentic, someone unstoppable. While their world crumbles under the weight of their lies, yours is thriving. You've chosen to live in the light while they cling to their shadows. They rely on illusions to survive, but you thrive on authenticity. Their mask will break on its own, piece by piece, until all that's left is the hollow person they've been running from. And when it does, they'll realize the painful truth. They were never as powerful as they pretended to be, and you were never as weak as they hoped you'd be. That realization, it will haunt them far more than anything you could ever say or do. Because you've already moved on, you've risen above. While they're busy trying to keep their mask from shattering, you're out there building a life they could never touch. And when they finally look up and see the cracks in their reflection, they'll know they were never in control. You were free all along. 3. The storm they never saw coming. They thought they had you figured out. They believed they knew your limits, your breaking point, and exactly how you'd respond. They expected tears, pleas, and the kind of heartbreak that would leave you shattered. They thought your silence was nothing more than a slow fade into irrelevance, a quiet surrender. But what they never saw coming was that your silence wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far greater. They assumed they'd written the final chapter of your story, imagining a tragic ending where you stayed trapped in the past. But oh, you were never the ending. You were the plot twist they never expected. Think of a volcano standing silently, its surface calm, unassuming. But beneath, unimaginable power builds. The pressure rises, the heat intensifies, and one day, without warning, that volcano erupts. Unstoppable, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. That's you. They thought your silence meant you'd been buried under the rubble they left behind, but instead, you were transforming. You were rising, stronger and more powerful than they ever imagined. The writer Janet Fitch once said, "The phoenix must burn to emerge." They thought they had turned you to ashes, but they didn't realize ashes are where legends are born. You are the phoenix rising from the fire they thought would consume you. You turned destruction into creation, pain into power, and silence into a roar that can't be ignored. They expected a victim, someone clinging to the hope of their return. But what they never expected was a warrior. While they were celebrating your supposed downfall, you were building. You were sharpening your mind, fortifying your soul, and transforming every tear, every sleepless night, and every whispered doubt into the fuel that ignited your transformation. Here's the truth. You didn't fall silent because you were broken. You fell silent because you were done. Done chasing, done explaining, and done wasting your energy on someone who couldn't see your worth. You didn't need them to define you. You turned that energy inward, into your dreams, your goals, and your purpose. Frank Sinatra once said, "The best revenge is massive success." But this isn't about revenge. They think you're out to prove a point, to make them miss you. The reality is, you're not coming back at all. You've stopped looking in their direction. While they sit there, stuck in the past, you're walking into a future so bright, it blinds anyone who doubted you. They can't grasp it yet, but your silence is the loudest proof of your strength. It's the echo they can't escape. They expected you to be a pawn in their game, but you've left the board entirely. The philosopher Epictetus wisely said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." They were counting on your reaction, your anger, your heartbreak, but instead, your lack of response has shattered their illusion of control. They thought they held the strings, but you've been cutting them one by one. And now, there's nothing left for them to pull. They'll sit there, wondering where you went, what you're thinking, and whether you ever cared. But by the time they realize what's happened, you'll be miles ahead, living a life that has no space for their games or their opinions. They believed they were the storm, but they didn't see the storm brewing inside you. You are the force they never expected, the calm before the eruption that will shake their world. And when they finally realize you've moved on, they'll know they were never the ones in control, because you were always the storm they never saw coming. And now, you've left them behind, unshaken, unstoppable, and untouchable, for unshakable power in a world of storms. Imagine a ship lost at sea, battered by relentless storms. The waves crash, the wind howls, and the darkness seems endless. For a moment it feels like the ship might sink, but deep within its core lies an anchor, silent, unseen, yet unyielding. No matter how violent the storm, that anchor holds steady, grounding the ship through the chaos. That's you, and that unshakable anchor within you. That's your strength. This is what reclaiming power like a Stoic truly means. It's not about fighting every wave or raging against the storm. It's about standing firm, rooted in yourself, no matter what chaos surrounds you. The people who dismissed your silence, who thought they had defeated you, were betting on your collapse. They expected you to be like every other ship adrift, lost, and eventually sinking. But what they never counted on was your anchor, your unbreakable core. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the truth they don't understand. Your strength doesn't depend on what happens around you. It comes from what happens within you. Once you master this, no storm can sink you, and no person can control you. Reclaiming power doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending you don't care. It means processing the hurt, learning from it, and then letting it go. It's refusing to let the chaos around you take over your peace. It's understanding that your worth isn't tied to someone else's opinion of you. They don't define your value. You do. Picture a single candle in the middle of a pitch-black night. The darkness presses in, thick and endless, but the candle burns on, quietly, steadily, without fanfare. That's you. They thought your silence meant your light had gone out. They believed they had extinguished your fire. But in reality, your flame has been burning brighter than ever, just beyond their reach. They couldn't see it because they were looking for fireworks, not the quiet, unyielding flame that never dies. They craved power over you, and for a while they believed they had it. They thrived on controlling your emotions, on making you doubt your worth. But here's the truth. You've taken away the one thing they can't survive without: your attention. The moment you stopped reacting, you reclaimed your energy. The second you stopped seeking closure, you reclaimed your peace. And when you let go of needing them to see your value, you reclaimed your freedom. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." They craved control, thrived on manipulation, and relied on your need for their validation. But you've cut those strings. They thought they were the puppeteer, pulling you into their games. What they didn't realize was that you were holding the blade all along. You are no longer living by their rules, seeking their approval, or waiting for their acknowledgement. Your happiness, your success, your peace, they don't come from them. They never did. True power doesn't come from forcing others to submit. It comes from rising above, from standing tall in the face of everything that tries to break you. As Epictetus said, "We suffer not from events, but from our judgments about them." You can't change what they did, but you can change how you view it. Their actions don't have to make you bitter. They can make you better. And that's the truth they never saw coming. The most powerful person in the world is someone who doesn't need anything from anyone. Someone who is whole, complete, and secure in themselves. That's you. They thought your silence was a sign of defeat, but it was your declaration of freedom. It was your proof that you no longer live in their world, follow their rules, or seek their approval. You are the anchor that holds steady through the storm. You are the flame that burns brightly in the darkest nights. And now, with your power reclaimed, you are unstoppable. 5. The turn they never anticipated. Picture this. A game where your opponent is so sure they've already won. They lean back, smug and satisfied, convinced they've outsmarted you. They stop watching, certain you're out of moves. And then, just when they least expect it, you make the one move that flips everything. That's the moment their illusion of triumph shatters. They thought you were done, defeated, a distant memory, a forgotten chapter. But they never saw your silence for what it truly was, the start of your rise. While they were busy basking in their imagined victory, you were working in the shadows, building yourself back up, healing and evolving. They thought they'd written your final chapter, But in reality, your silence was the prelude to your transformation. Imagine a seed buried deep in the earth. From the outside, it seems lifeless, forgotten, but beneath the soil, life stirs. The roots spread, the seed grows, silently gathering strength. And then one day, it breaks through the ground, strong, unstoppable, undeniable. That's you. They thought they'd buried you, but they didn't realize they were planting you. Now you've become the force they never anticipated. Lao Tzu once said, "Silence is a source of great strength." They misunderstood your silence as weakness, but they never understood its power. Silence isn't emptiness, it's potential. It's energy redirected into growth. They thought you'd disappeared, but in truth, you were becoming something greater, something they could never comprehend. The turn they never anticipated wasn't some dramatic confrontation or calculated revenge. It wasn't a scene from a movie where you stormed back into their life to demand acknowledgement. No, the real flip was in your transformation. You stopped explaining, stopped needing their validation, and stopped playing their game entirely. That's what they didn't expect. That you would simply walk away, no longer tethered to their opinion, their actions, or their control. When they finally notice your absence, it'll be like waking up from a dream, only to find themselves in a reality they don't recognize. They'll look for the person they thought they knew, but that person is gone. What they'll see instead is someone unshakable, someone who thrives without them. As Rumi beautifully put it, the wound is where the light enters you. They thought they broke you with their indifference, their games, their dismissal, but every wound they left behind became a doorway to your strength. Every time they underestimated you, they unknowingly handed you the keys to your own freedom. While they were stuck playing the same old game, you were building a life they'll never touch. A life where their existence no longer matters. They expected your silence to be about them, a desperate attempt to make them miss you. But it was never about them. Your silence was about reclaiming yourself, your worth, your peace, and your future. Here's what terrifies them most. People who thrive in stillness. They expected drama, confrontation, and noise. They thrive on chaos, but they crumble in the face of calm. When you respond with nothing, no explanations, no apologies, no pleas, they're forced to face themselves, and that's something they've been running from all along. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Your greatest move wasn't revenge, it was freedom. It was walking away without a glance back, building a life so rich and full that their opinions became irrelevant. They thought they were the main character in your story, but you rewrote the script. You are the hero now, the one who rose without needing permission, the one who thrived without approval, the one who reclaimed every part of themselves. Let them believe they've won. Let them stay stuck in the past. Because while they're trapped in their old games, you're living in a future they can't touch. You are the turn they never anticipated, the chapter they'll never escape. And that's what true freedom looks like. 6. The illusion. They couldn't see through. Picture someone chasing a shimmering mirage in the middle of a desert, running with everything they have, convinced it's a priceless treasure. But when they reach it, they find nothing, just an illusion created by their own desperation. That's who they are. They walked away thinking they were the prize, the treasure you couldn't live without, believing their absence would leave you lost, shattered, and desperate for their return. Oh, how wrong they were. The truth is they were never the treasure. You were. They couldn't see it because they were blinded by their own arrogance, lost in the fantasy that their presence was what made you whole. But you see it now, don't you? You were the one giving value, bringing light, offering love, and creating meaning. They were just an illusion, a mirage that seemed real until you looked closer and saw the emptiness beneath the surface. Maya Angelou once said, "Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option." And that's exactly what you did. You made them a priority. You gave your heart, your energy, your time, while they gave you the bare minimum, treating you like an afterthought. They made you believe they were the rare find, the one worth sacrificing for. But now you know the truth. Their worth was an illusion. They convinced themselves that being desired and chased made them valuable. They thought their worth came from how much you needed them. But real value doesn't come from being pursued. It comes from being irreplaceable. They believed their presence added something extraordinary to your life. But what they failed to see was that it was your light that made everything shine. Without you, they're just ordinary. Ask yourself, what did they really offer? Lies, manipulation, emotional games, shallow promises meant to keep you hooked? Meanwhile, you were the one who stayed, who fought for the connection, who gave everything you had. They took, and they took, never realizing the rarity of what they were receiving. Seneca once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." They wanted your love, your attention, your energy, but they gave nothing in return. They took from you because they thought they were entitled to it, never realizing they were holding something priceless in their hands. Now they've lost it. They walked away thinking they were leaving you behind, but what they really left behind was the best thing that ever happened to them. They believed someone else could replace you, that what you brought into their life was easy to find. But deep down, they know that's not true. You were the prize all along, not because of what you gave them, but because of who you are. Someone with a kind heart. Someone who loves deeply, authentically, and fully. Someone who doesn't just survive storms, but rises above them stronger than ever. That's the kind of value they'll never find again. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." Your worth was never tied to them. It wasn't defined by how they treated you, whether they stayed or left. Your worth was always yours, even when you couldn't see it through the fog of their manipulation. Let them believe they were special, that they were irreplaceable. It doesn't matter anymore. You've moved past the illusion, past the lies, past the need for their approval. You've stepped into the truth of your own value. You are the treasure they never saw, the prize they never appreciated, and the one thing they'll never have access to again. They thought they were the main character in your story. They weren't. You've written a new story, one where you are the star, the one who thrives, the one who is truly irreplaceable. And now, as you rise, they're left with nothing but the emptiness of their own illusions. 7. The collapse. They couldn't stop. Picture a tower built from stolen bricks, each piece taken from someone else, held together by lies and manipulation. To the outside world it stands tall, impressive, even untouchable. But inside, it's hollow, riddled with cracks that run deep through its core. The moment life's storms arrive, the facade begins to crumble. That's who they are. They spent their life pretending to be stronger, smarter, and more desirable than they ever truly were. Their confidence was nothing more than armor, a mask to deceive everyone around them. They climbed higher and higher, using people as stepping stones, convinced their charm and cunning would keep them on top forever. But time, as it always does, reveals the truth. Every lie, every manipulation, every false promise eventually adds weight to their crumbling foundation. And no matter how high they built their tower, the fall was inevitable. At first, they didn't notice. They were too busy basking in their imagined superiority, thinking life would always revolve around them. They moved on quickly, dismissing you as just another chapter they'd closed. They believed they'd broken you, left you behind, and moved on without consequence. But life doesn't work that way. Life has a way of teaching the unteachable, and their reckoning began the moment they underestimated you. While they were chasing shallow validation, meaningless connections, and fleeting distractions, you were rising. Slowly, steadily, silently, you rebuilt yourself. They thought their absence would destroy you, but it set you free. You stopped explaining, stopped chasing, and stopped hoping for something that was never real. While they repeated their same toxic patterns, you transformed into someone they could never reach. Percy Bysshe Shelley once wrote, "Fear not for the future, weep not for the past." But they do weep, though they'd never admit it. They grieve for the opportunities they squandered, for the love they'll never feel again, for the version of you they lost forever. At first, they'll keep pretending, acting as though nothing has changed, as though life is perfect. But pretending has a time limit. Late at night, when there's no one left to fool, they'll feel it. The weight of their choices will hit them like the collapse of their own tower, crushing, suffocating, and inescapable. They'll remember you, not just the person you were, but the love, loyalty, and patience you gave them. They'll recall every moment you showed up, every time you forgave, every chance you gave them long after they deserved it. And they'll remember the day you didn't come back. That's the fall they never saw coming. They believed they were untouchable. They thought they could play games forever, manipulating, discarding, and replacing people without consequence. But they forgot one universal truth. Life always collects its debts. Heraclitus once said, "Character is destiny." Their destiny was shaped by the lies they told, the trust they shattered, and the hearts they broke. For a while, they may have fooled the world, but in the end, they couldn't fool themselves. Now, they'll try to fill the void. They'll chase fleeting thrills, hollow relationships, and cheap validation, but none of it will ever be enough. What they lost was irreplaceable. They lost you, not just the version of you they knew, but the unstoppable person you've become. They'll never manipulate, hurt, or control you again. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." While you've been living fully, fiercely, and authentically, they've been stuck in the ruins of the world they built on lies. They are now prisoners of their own choices, and that is the collapse they couldn't stop. They thought they'd left you behind, but the truth is, you've left them behind. You've stepped into a future they'll never touch, a life so far beyond their reach that even their memories of you feel like a distant dream. They thought they were the main character, but you are the one who rose. Their fall is the ending they'll never escape, and your rise is the lesson they'll never forget. 8. Rising beyond the ruins. Now you see the truth. They thought they had won, but they were never even in the game. While they remained trapped in the wreckage of their lies and illusions, you have risen above, unshaken and untouchable. They built their lives on shallow validation and empty promises, and now they're left with nothing but the ruins of a foundation that was always destined to collapse. But you've built something they can never touch, a life grounded in strength, purpose, and freedom. Think of an eagle soaring above the storm. It doesn't fight the wind or fear the rain. It rises higher, above the chaos, where the air is clear and the storm can no longer reach it. That's you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You've mastered this truth. While they were busy trying to control the world around them, you learned to control yourself. You stopped chasing, explaining, and hoping for things that were never meant to be. You let go of the illusions they created, and in doing so, you found your own power. They thought their games defined you. They believed their absence would break you, but instead, it freed you. Every moment you spent in silence wasn't a retreat. It was a recalibration. While they remained stuck in their cycle of lies, you grew, you healed, you became someone so strong, so self-assured, that their opinion of you became irrelevant. Rumi said, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." You lost the version of yourself that sought their approval, but what you gained is priceless. You gained clarity, peace, and a sense of self that cannot be shaken. They thought their presence in your life added value, but the truth is, it was your light that made everything shine. Without you, they're just a shadow, fading into the background. Questions might linger in your mind. Did they ever care? Were their intentions ever real? But here's the thing, their actions don't define your worth. Whether they cared or not no longer matters. The focus isn't on what they were, it's on who you've become. You've chosen freedom over fear, strength over sorrow, and self-worth over their validation. Picture a phoenix rising from the ashes, its wings ignited with the flames of transformation. That's you. The ashes they left behind became the very ground you rebuilt on. They thought they had written the final chapter of your story, but you've just begun a new one where you are the author, the hero, and the guiding force. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." That's the ultimate lesson. Your freedom, your strength, and your peace were never in their hands. You reclaimed them the moment you stopped giving your power away. So here you are, standing tall, thriving in ways they never thought possible. Their world may be full of regrets, but yours is filled with possibilities. They will never understand how you turned silence into strength, pain into power, and loss into liberation. This is your moment. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. Your story is a testament to resilience, growth, and the unshakable truth that you were always enough. While they stay lost in the shadows of their past, you rise beyond their reach, creating a future so bright it blinds anyone who doubted you. Your journey is far from over, it's only just begun. Keep rising, keep thriving, and remember, the life you're building now is the life they'll never be part of. And that's the greatest triumph of all.